So big John McCarthy in charge of the action here between Diniyaar Abdibаев and Sergei Martynov. We are set. Diniyaar, look for him to use those strikes to engage that clinch. A very high-level freestyle wrestler. Pretty unorthodox striking style as well. He throws punches from weird angles, but makes them work, and all to do that thing, all to get it into his world, get that closer distance and get that clinch.
And obviously, I mean, just looking at the guy, he's a powerfully built human being. You know, developed a great physique from, years spent on a wrestling mat. Developed, apical, tendon connections. And he might not be the cleanest striker, but the fact of being a good athlete and being well-conditioned can make up for that. And he knows what he needs. And obviously, he's improving on the striking realm of his career, but he realizes that he's using it to get to where his strengths are, which is if he can lock his hands and make this a grappling match.
Mартынов using that stiff jab just to dissuade Abdibаев from coming in for that takedown. Looking to counter as well. As soon as Abdibаев flinched, fake it, there we go. Looks for that single.
He has a single, he's trying to connect his hands. Oh, he broke his hands to try to connect a double. But Sergey, good job of controlling the far hand. A little bit of exchange there with the back of the head shot. Diniyaar was able to throw, but Sergey countered back nicely with that elbow.
Beautiful elbow on the break there. A little smile there from Abdibаев. And Sergei Martynov has never been finished, never submitted, never knocked out. And when you're going up against a submission specialist, not just a submission specialist, a finisher in Abdibаев, this is really going to test what he's made of.
And that is true. More even deeper than people even want to first give that glance. When you have a person, early in my career, I was that way. You go out there and you're used to just in the gym submitting everybody, in fights, submitting people quickly. Mentally, sometimes it doesn't prepare you for when you have a hard time with somebody. You go out there and you fire a few submissions on them. They get away. Some guys can crumble in that situation. They're so used to success that success can actually make you weaker.
Both fighters looking to counterpunch. Abdibаев threw that huge overhand right, and Mартынов looks very relaxed. He's got his timing and his distance down. He's reading those shots and has caught Abdibаев as he's coming in with those wild, big haymakers.
Well, he's established a great foundation. He has good stance. He's firing the jab. He's staying at a safe distance, trying to make sure that he doesn't give an easy takedown. But at this point, I think now that he's established that he's able to fend off what Diniyaar's doing, he needs to look for the next step. Okay, you came out, you're establishing that you your space, but now what are you doing to set up to where you're going to hurt the guy in front of you? Because if not, you're allowing Diniyaar to go ahead and start. You can see he's doing the level changes, throwing the straight right hand to the body. Like, you're being difficult now, but you have to start doing something else to start taking over the fight. If not, your opponent is also getting comfortable, looking at ways to adjust to solve the puzzle of what you've put out there in your defense.
Mартынов made a move in there, but was met mainly by Abdibaev's left hand. Mартынов being so careful with that distance.
You got to make sure you throw enough out there that you don't want to make it to where it's questionable.
This could be the first time at ACB 62 we see a second round.
Overhand right, trying then to step over into a double. He's staying patient. Look at that. Did a nice little head pull, came back and fired with a jab, and I think they both kind of
did. Nice. You can feel the momentum going up there, couldn't you, with the Mартынov finding his range.
There was a pretty close exchange, I felt, in the first 2 minutes of that fight, but then Sergey in the last minute and a half started really establishing the jab, and now we just had John McCarthy come over and make sure that the judges know, we know that cut that he occurred came from a punch. If it had been an unintentional headbutt, we make sure that John will identify that with us to the judges cage side, so it doesn't weigh into our judging on effective striking. that punch, that cut occurred there. Plus, if it were to be stopped, there's
all
different rules.
goes into account, absolutely. Right. But it was that weapon, that one weapon, the most fundamentally important weapon in striking, that jab that Mартынов established towards the end, and that's been that was the change of the round, the momentum of the fight. You could see Abdibаев trying his hardest to use that overhand right to get that clinch, but that jab is working well. But like you said, I would like to see more of it.
And now it really put it, the ball is in Diniyar's court. He has to figure out a way to nullify the jab. He can either jab with him and they can have a jab battle, or he can try to slip off angle of the jab, maybe firing punches over the lead shoulder to deter him. Also, too, he could attack that lead leg. That's always a solution. You see some really good kickboxers that, if you fire a hard, heavy jab on them, they'll eat that lead leg up with kicks. All these are viable solutions, but Diniar needs to pull out something, because right now Sergey, with his height and his striking ability, if he wants to, this jab is just going to become just going to start turning into a hammer.
Hammer indeed. And we are in the second round now. First time we've seen the second round here at ACB 62. Two action-packed fights kicked us off, and this is really a game of chess between these two. They're both aware of how dangerous they are, where each other's strengths lie, and it's just establishing that momentum, which Sergey, I feel that he's doing more of in this fight so far.
Absolutely agree with you. He started out a little tentatively in the first 2 minutes. I think just trying to, kept a good base, wasn't not fighting, but you could see that he was more or less really keeping his eyes open on what is Diniar going to do? What does he bring into the table? And I think now he's seen already 3 different shot attempts. He's fended them off effectively, so his confidence on standing there and throwing strikes, you can see that he's starting to move. Here's switching a little bit of a southpaw. He's starting to open up his offense, and Diniar, though, needs to do something to take the momentum back. He needs to have a shift here, find out a way to start nullifying some of the weapons, specifically that jab, and at the same time cause something for Sergey to have to worry about. Right now, Sergey is just feeling very comfortable, avoiding anything weird, punches coming from angles and the shot, and he's peppering away with that jab.
But one thing that has been the trademark of Diniar, Abdibаев, is making it hard, working his way through and somehow pulling out the victory. And he only takes one time for him to get an opponent to the ground, and then that's really where his skills really shine. He's proved that with the 4 wins by submission that he's got on his record. So Mартынов has got to stay switched on for this entire fight if he's going to avoid anything like that.
And he's doing a good job of it. I mean, you see, guys, how alert he is, his stance. He's looking to employ his offense constantly, but he's working off that jab. He's keeping good footwork, good distance, and now he's trying. Oh, here comes the right hand. Right after that left hook, he used it as a setup, straightened out that shoulder, and fired it down the middle.
But how tough is Diniar? He barely blinks when he eats those jabs. Oh, there's a smooth right hand just across the chin there of Diniar.
Diniar threw that inside leg kick, but here's the problem. You're on one foot when you throw a kick. You have to make sure when you throw a kick, especially below the waist on your opponent, you have to move their base. You have to either make it to where they respect the kick enough that they're going to pick their leg up and block it with their shin, or you move their foot off balance, so you have to off balance them. You don't want the scenario where I kick you in the leg, you didn't have to move, and both feet are planted, and now you're firing a punch at me.
We're down to 1 minute 55 seconds here in this second round, and another good shot there from Sergey Mартынов. More blood coming down the face now from that the cut over the right eye, and it's just under the eyebrow. That's a precarious position as that blood drips down into your eye, can ruin your vision.
Right now, this is what, in this third round coming out, if we go there, Diniar needs to go ahead and just throw caution to the wind. Trying to fight a calculated match right now, he's just getting outplayed in chess right now. Sergey is a much more effective striker. He has the better jab. He's landing the better strikes. He's doing everything correct. There's no doubt in my mind that he's won 2 rounds to nothing here. And there doesn't seem to be anything that Diniar's going to do technically, as far as a clean, crisp technique that he has in his back pocket that he can pull out here. He's going to have to just make this ugly. It might take a chance that he might get caught and get hurt, but right now the path he's on, there's very little chance of victory. He's going to have to throw a change up and start making it ugly.
He threw a big right hand there. Also a little thigh shot earlier on, but I don't know if that's going to change the momentum of the fight.
Well, you see that Sergey is a very savvy striker. Diniyar's corner needs to let him know that throwing one punch, there, shot a double from too far away, and what a great underhook from Sergey. Oh, that jab was hard.
Now Diniar blinks as the damage on his face is building up, shot by shot. This is a true example of how you use range and distance as well. It's not a massive height advantage he's got, but obviously 2-3 inches on the reach, and he's using it perfectly.
He has. Alert. I can't say it enough. Everything, I mean, right there, even a spinning back fist that Diniar threw at him, he was able to shift his weight back. He's doing a great job that every time Diniar changes levels and grabs his leg, he's able to secure that underhook. He makes sure that there's no chance of Diniar switching that off to a double leg takedown. He's able to stay on balance on the single, fight it down, and pull his leg out.
So we will see a third round here at ACB 62. A tough ball battle, but you said it exactly there just before we got the end of that round. For something to happen, Diniyar's got to throw caution to the wind. His corner have got a big job to do now as well to reinvigorate him, re-motivate him for this third round.
This is when just, you know, the Hail Marys start occurring. But that doesn't have to be completely just unthought of or just, you know, blatantly just bad technique. You can go ahead and do, you just have to bring up the intensity and really you start going, okay, risk to reward. And right now you're going to just have to take higher risk maneuvers that you normally wouldn't do if you were in control of the fight. So it doesn't have to just be blind, you know, rage right now and real poorly executed techniques. It just has to be, you know, more intensity and going after him in a way that opens and creates some type of opportunities.
Well, let's see what we get in this third round here. Diniar, Abdibаев in the blue corner and the white shorts. And then Sergey Martynov, the Rostov fighter here in the red corner and the black Jacko shorts. A little bit more movement from Diniar here.
And you know what? Diniyar's doing it. It looks like right now he's trying to open up.
I think I'm just going to take it back and do it myself like I was before.
But the intensity on the eyes of Sergey Martynov, he knows this is a big fight for him. And he's come in absolutely switched on for it. This will be huge, taking the O of Diniar Abdibаев.
Great job. I mean, he had a lot of pressure. I mean, people talk about home field advantage, you know, and I think that's a that works in different sports. Fighting-wise, it doesn't always work that way, and it really depends individualistically on who the fighter is. Some people, you know, fighting in their hometown, more often than not, I find talking to guys that it adds a lot of pressure. You know, you're sitting there, and you know, more people are going to attend. You have all the family and friends showing up that normally probably wouldn't make it if you were fighting farther away, and it just, people say things to you. It's kind of crazy, like, you know, hey, when, and it could add to that just already nervous. And I find it a distraction. You know, whether it makes you nervous or not, your brain's thinking about, you know, oh, did my mom get tickets? Where is she sitting? You know, whereas, you know, when you're fighting, it needs to be solely just focused on the guy in front of you. And when you have that home field, sometimes, like I said, it causes more problems than I think it doesn't.
Diniar Abdibаев makes the charge for the cage. He's hanging on for that single leg. But Mартынов again.
He grabs the single quite well, but then he needs to do a different finish. He tried running the, you know, like a dump on it. I think that if he would have elevated the leg up and ran more like a Tom Ryan type of takedown, or just basically really picking Sergey's leg up, but switching off to the double, it's not a very high, you know, a technical maneuver. Most of the time, guys, especially with the cage behind you, more often than not, it gets you in trouble. Your hands are connected on a single, then you reach over to grab that double, and unless the guy doesn't know how to control your wrist or doesn't know how to dig an underhook, now you have one hand holding onto the leg, and usually that's the beginning, you know, that the leg immediately gets escaped.
And he's also tried it. That'll be his third time he's attempted that same take. That off. Got caught there. 2 minutes, 15 seconds left in this third and final round, and Mартынов turns it out with a big body kick.
Well, I think Sergey right now needs to go ahead and turn up the volume. I don't want to see him get caught with anything crazy. You know, he's earned the decision here. But I think if he wants that $5,000 finish, he has a guy in Diniar who's hurt. You can see from his...
Oh, that's a huge right hand. The mouthpiece of Diniar. Oh, he's walking off.
Fight's going to get stopped.
Oh, oh. The rule is defend yourself at all times.
Yeah, that was an awesome stoppage from John. You can't be in the fight, get hit, put your hands down, and start walking off. Immediately the referees have to realize that you're not home. You know, the lights are on, but no one's answering the door. And so here he swings, and I don't know if because he got his mouthpiece knocked off, he thought, but that was just...
Maybe that was it. Maybe. The way he walked away, that was a man deflated. That looked to me like he was quitting right there.
And I mean, that's the number one reason a referee is inside the cage, to keep you from receiving, you know, undue damage. And at that moment, you know, Diniar was in very critical situation where if Sergey wanted to throw a kick to the head or really hurt him, he had a sitting duck on his hands. And if it wasn't for John, you know, he might not be going to an after-fight party tonight.
Yeah, well, that's why we've got Big John and Herb Dean here, looking after our fighters in the ACB cage. And what a finish that was from Sergey. You called it. He needed to up the volume, up the intensity. He did that. Caught him with that clean right hand. The mouthpiece came flying out right in front of us.
We actually lost our judge over here. She had blood all over the cage, and one hell of a shot, right?
Wow, unbelievable stuff. We'll hand it back to our MC, Mr. Cyrus Fees.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to guard the Santos fight in 3 minutes and 12 seconds. And round number 3, your winner by TKO, due to strikes, Sergey Mартынов.
And a big smile there, met with a big cheer from the crowd as Sergey Mартынov is now going to address the Rostov crowd. I think we need no translator for that. That is one happy man. He takes the O out of Abdibаев and moves on to 7-3. Let's have a look at this again, Frank.
There, I mean, he was coming forward. He's already established this great striking. Caught him with the right hand there. And here, just the walk-off. He wasn't protecting himself. If John hadn't came in there and stopped it, you know, a lot of damage could have occurred. There was the right hand. I think just that was the end right there. It stunned him through the mouthpiece out of his mouth. Here he's just getting hammered with no intelligent defense back. Obviously, he was rocked. You see there again, mouthpiece shooting out, a little bit of blood on our judge there. And he just, you know, the guy just had nothing to answer back.